Show up, write the thing, do the thing, show up, write the thing, do the thing. Have this goal, have that goal, have this goal. Have a thought process of what to do it. Have a checklist, have a this, have a sticky note. Oh my God, my inner critic and my inner shadow are both the same person and they're screaming at me, so what? Let's talk about how really truly they are not the enemy inside of you and the villain not only you can't stand, but also the villain side that your haters love to talk about most. And really truly, it's not banishing forever that side of yourself that is the solution, but rather integrating it in ways, because where we deliver light, there is also shadow, and where there is also shadow, normally there's light. Let's have a chat about it. Welcome back on in, everybody. My name is Jenna O'Malley. I am your soul writer, author of sci-fi fantasy with dashes of romance and nerdy references, alongside the raw healing stories I do dare weave in the Myrna Annals and Vitae Elangica, or other related and possibly eventually unrelated stories. I do like to sit down with my fellow soul bards and talk about the things we get to focus on as writers in our pace, in our time, in our stride, in a world not built for our creativity, and boy oh boy, it is much in need of it right now. So let's go ahead and look at the handful or so of things that really we face every single day as writers. And it's more than just the blank page, and it's more than just writer's block, and it's more than accepting that we too sometimes have a darkness in ourselves that is critical and villainous. Number one, this is a myth. I have studied psychology, neuroscience, and now spirituality on my educator, trauma-informed personage trying to help other people survive the world, coaching kind of line of sight that I took on and did not realize I was going to learn as a teacher. They all have this, you really got to fight your ego, you got to fight your shadow, you got to fight your inner critic. I don't care what you call it. It's still a natural part of ourselves, and it does not necessarily mean it is evil. And I want to challenge the hustle culture that kind of really does look at these items as in a cudgel needs to be placed upon you when they show up. In reality, I think the opposite is true. Maybe this is because I've hung out around a lot of spiritual and indigenous people at different points in my life, now included, and instead of looking at the darkness and giving it more darkness, why aren't we giving it lightness? Why aren't we looking at it as okay, you just need a solution, not to be fixed, but rather to progress into something better? So when I came into this concept of shadow integration, I very much thought this is something that writers probably are doing really well at, or not at all. And it's not acknowledging that this part of ourself needs to be banished. Instead, rather, this part of ourselves is, number two, not just a part of ourself that is mythical and integratable, but also this part of ourselves that is worth going into a deep dive. I find my empathy lives in my darkness, not in my light. My sympathies live in my light. My empathies live in my darkness, to kind of give you a dividing line there. And most writers are not just sympathizers. We are not just empaths. We are part of the party. We are the bard cheering everybody on in that regard. And some of us have very much taken this framework that we can look at our worst, gross, nastiest parts of self and find a solution through another character's existence. This is often looked at as the reason why readers are more empathetic people to a deeper level. I therefore argue all the more writers have to be the ones creating those experiences most of the time. So this is where I challenge you to look at the voices in your head that no longer serve you as a writer. When I was a teacher, and I've said this sometimes here too, I would often say, the lies that other people tell you about yourself are garbage, to the point that literally they threw it all over you and didn't want to carry the lie themselves. So why are you picking up somebody else's garbage and carrying forth a lie that is not true about you? Why are you picking up and carrying somebody else's garbage that they themselves projected all over you because they didn't want to be bothered with the weight of carrying that problem, that thought process, that shadow entity. And therefore, take the time to look at what is yours to carry versus what someone told you had to carry. So when you're there, okay, I just barely pulled my document up today. Good! You pulled your document up today! You reread. That too is a celebration. You're honoring the work past you did. So what if that's all you did today? Good. Therefore, are you censoring yourself too much? If you're convincing yourself to shrink in how you show up with your time without honoring the fact that it is okay to use your time how you use it, are you also doing too much inner self-censorship to the point that you are shrinking and missing out on opportunities? Take it from the chick who realizes that's one of the reasons why her YouTube channel has kind of stagnated. Some of you don't feel that. There are people who have been doing YouTube half as long as I have, with half as many videos as I've done, doing 3 times the amount of service to the community. That is something that can lead you to censor yourself into, well, they already did it, why bother? You should bother, is something I told myself recently. You should bother. So integrate that shadow. Okay, Loki, speaking of shadows, let me release one unto the Kraken. Now that one of my shadows has been released unto the ether and be Panther mode about the house, let's just accept she's going to scratch to get back in anytime now. How can you address this shadow side of yourself in a way that allows you to structure high-intensity integration for yourself and others? Well, this is where the Pomodoro method comes in handy. I often have even told my high school students when introducing the Pomodoro method to them at the beginning of the school year, you can normally convince your brain to do something for 5 minutes. The first 5 minutes are the hardest. This is likewise why I also say the first 5% or the first 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000 or 20,000, whatever measure point you want to give here, is often the hardest of writing a novella versus a novel. Okay? Once you get into it for that high intensity period, you sometimes forget time passes by. This for me is also where I need to kind of remind you there's a balance between the two. Stop, take a moment, breathe, enjoy it, because creating from chaos and during a time of chaos is an energy, and it does take energy to transform and transmute that energy. So make sure that you're stopping to smell the roses. You are the first reader many times of this tale. If you need to stop and laugh with your characters, laugh with them. If you need to stop and bawl your eyes out with your characters, do it. Your readers are more likely to feel that too if you take the time to honor that and allow it to integrate. That is part of your shadow work, literally getting integrated into the story in a way that's healthy and healing for you and your readers, therefore making both sides of the equation even more empathetic to the world's experiences. And also, I would hesitate to use AI, this is just me, as my dropping point. If you have introduced a framework that has become AI reliant, you might be stuck in a feedback loop that AI has created for you. Heads up, and not even realizing it, okay? I would venture to say this also applies to critique partners, beta readers, editors. Sometimes you got to get a new, fresh set of eyes on a situation. And for me, this is where having my critique partner jump in at book 6 instead of going back to read book 1 has helped me understand that book so much more from her perspective. And her feedback has been invaluable about how new and old characters are going to be seen by a new to the series reader. So you can see where integrating that shadow can have a lighter and light-sided payoff for you in the long run if you've been in any kind of feedback loop. Next item, covers wanting to translate resistance to world building. if you are feeling resistant to something, you've got to acknowledge that a couple of things are going to come up automatically in your critical self, in your shadow self. Automatically I don't want to do this, therefore let me look for excuses. And we humans love our excuses, and we think they're valid reasons. They are valid reasons 95% of the time that usually have easy solutions that we don't always want to go on to, because my comfort zone is nice and warm and squishy, or cool if you like stuff being cold. It's nice and temperate, appropriate, and squishy, and it's okay to come out of your hovel, hermit. Come down from the mountain so people can learn from you, priest or priestess. You have something to instill and share as part of your own resistance journey in writing this. Because there's a message sometimes for us as the writer as much as there is for the reader. And don't you know, my characters are among some of the loudest voices who will call me out. And some of you are like, I have that character. I have a character who behaves as, if you think Emperor's New Groove, the character Kronk, his good angel and his bad angel. I have a Vovary and I have a Frey. Those of you who know my books are like, that is why you sometimes argue with yourself. I have the Paladin brother who literally served in the Swiss Pontifical Guard versus the dude who has a contract with a fallen angel in his head. And sometimes, when they're in the same scene, it is literally them calling me out for not wanting to write things their way, or even wanting to show up to the scene at all. So this is why I say, when you have characters calling you out, it's something you are meant to heal for you, and your readers are meant to do so possibly as a ripple effect. That is also valid. This is where I start to delve into all type of fiction writing as reflective writing, but that's a vlog for another day. Maintaining, number 5 and final, maintaining your authentic voice sometimes becomes the question here, especially when there are so many videos out there trying to tell you that my method of writing something is the only valid method of writing something, calling myself out for having produced those videos too in the past. And I just want to definitely say, monitor what you really think and feel versus that feedback loop we talked about, versus your inner self-critic making you shrink. Monitor them. Observe them. This is part of that self-awareness thing that we as writers tend to get way better at, in my opinion, the more we tend to write, or we choose not to, because we spend a lot of time alone by ourselves getting to know deeper parts of our darkest selves much better. Therefore, do monitor things along the way, and ultimately commit to a long-term practice that does not silence your inner critic, but rather integrates them in a satisfying way for you and them. Because somebody probably needs to experience that journey in a way that is low risk fiction, in a way that is safe fiction, in a way that is a couple of degrees removed from them fiction. If you made it this far, go ahead and leave some hugs or smileys or hearts in the comments. And above all, take care of yourself. You've mattered all along. Shadow included.